Here is what's coming up in today's Frontline compilation. A Ukrainian drone unit tracks a Russian fire team across open ground. One soldier darts into a shack for cover, but the drone's pressing close. What happens inside will leave you questioning their last move. In Bakhmut, a Ukrainian tank swings wide across broken streets without infantry escort. The crew shoves its barrel into fortified positions as if the city itself were the target. Why they fight this way is revealed in the footage. Drone warfare takes another turn when Ukrainian operators mount a shotgun onto their rig. 3 Russian drones appear in quick succession, and this unusual weapon comes into play at close range. A lone Russian soldier freezes in place as a drone approaches. He bets on stillness like a dinosaur defense, but FPVs do not hunt by sight alone. The outcome comes in seconds. This is real footage, no effects, just raw moments from the battlefield. Subscribe to stay updated on every Frontline report and stick around to see it all unfold. Let's get into it. On the Eastern Front, drone surveillance records a Russian T-80 tank halted in open terrain. A series of 120mm mortar rounds zero in, and one lands directly on target. The footage also shows infantry accompanying the vehicle, a rare sight outside cities. Their attempt at close support is cut short as fragments scatter through the formation. The strike shows how indirect fire still dominates even against armoured units, raising questions about how many more tanks can be spared. For this front, Russian reconnaissance footage captures a fiber optic drone homing in on a Ukrainian fighting position. 2 soldiers scramble to react, raising rifles as the drone pushes closer. Fiber drones bypass jamming, giving them an edge in contested zones. The last seconds show the men firing up at the sky, a futile attempt as the camera holds steady on their trench. What follows underscores how even dug-in troops cannot count on earthworks for safety anymore. Birds of Magyar footage shows a Russian soldier carrying a jug of liquid across open ground. An FPV drone closes in and strikes, the blast amplified as the container erupts into flame. The liquid, believed to be fuel, turns the explosion into a fireball that spreads wider than usual. The camera lingers on the scorched patch, a reminder that even small payloads can magnify devastation when mixed with what soldiers bring into the field. The sequence ends abruptly, leaving the viewer waiting for the next angle. Along a highway in Kursk, 2 Ukrainian soldiers ride in a compact sedan when an FPV drone dives toward them. Both men bail out just in time. The passenger shoulders a bullpup shotgun and fires upward, knocking the drone from the air. It detonates in front of the car, spraying debris across the road. The footage highlights how ad hoc defenses, like carrying shotguns for low-flying drones, are becoming part of everyday frontline travel. The strike fails, but the close call hints at how quickly routine movement can become deadly. Footage from the Spartan Brigade's Black Sky unit shows a string of FPV strikes across Russian positions. Night scenes reveal troops under thermal cloaks, but their colder outlines stand out against warm ground. The drones dive anyway, hitting infantry scattered across tree lines and dugouts. By dawn, the compilation shows over a dozen separate detonations stitched together, each filmed by overhead drones. The sequence captures how relentless pressure from one brigade alone can reshape entire sectors of the line. Ukrainian operators of the 68th Jaeger Infantry fly quadcopters over Russian tanks near Urozhain. Modified 40mm grenades are dropped one after another, some bouncing off armor, others striking more directly. Even when hits land, the explosions do little against the steel plating, showing the limits of small munitions against moving heavy armor. The clip demonstrates the constant trial and error of drone tactics as crews search for weak points. Each pass inches closer, leaving the question of when one drop might finally cripple a vehicle. Birds of Magyar drones circle a Russian fire team moving between tree lines. One soldier darts into a small shack, but a drone follows and slams into the structure. Others try to exfiltrate across open ground, limping or helping the wounded. More drones streak in, closing off escape. The sequence shows how even small groups in rural cover find themselves trapped under persistent surveillance. The last strike cuts the footage, leaving only the question of whether anyone survived. Ukrainian 110th Brigade drones film Russian troops hauling a casualty into a roadside called Ver. The dark space offers only momentary cover. One lagging soldier is struck at the entrance and collapses. A second FPV approaches from the opposite side, entering the confined tunnel. The survivors have no room to maneuver as blasts echo through the underpass. The cut ends abruptly, underscoring how terrain once considered safe now becomes a kill zone under drone eyes. Multiple clips show Russian infantry searching for cover and being rooted out by FPV strikes. In one case, soldiers duck into the skeletal frame of a destroyed house, only for a drone to weave through gaps and detonate inside. Another sequence shows suspected ammunition hidden beneath a supply truck. The blast triggers secondary cooking off rounds. The final shot captures a man pinned in open ground, firing skyward until a drone angles in for impact. Each vignette highlights the shrinking options for survival. A Ukrainian 3rd Separate Assault Brigade tank demonstrates a different method of clearing buildings. Instead of storming rooms with infantry, the crew halts outside and fires the main gun directly into the structure. The blast reduces cover to rubble in seconds. Drone footage shows walls collapsing as infantry nearby wait for the next round. The group targeted appears to be Russian units using the buildings as strongpoints near a supply line. Neutralizing them prevents reinforcement and secures the corridor for further advances. The video cuts before showing the next strike, leaving tension unresolved. A Russian main battle tank rumbles through open terrain while Ukrainian FPVs close in. Several drones strike the vehicle in succession, bouncing off added cage armor or exploding on contact with little effect. The tank continues to move despite visible damage, suggesting that improvised defenses are working more effectively than before. Eventually, mobility is lost and the tank grinds to a halt, though the crew appears to survive. The clip raises questions about how long drones will dominate once armor adapts further. Drone footage from Bakhmut shows a Ukrainian tank drifting through intersections as it takes on Russian strongpoints. Without infantry cover, the crew relies on speed and the shock effect of their main gun. At one point, the barrel is shoved directly into a building before firing, the blast echoing through ruined streets. The tank's unorthodox maneuvers highlight both daring and risk in urban combat. The video ends before revealing whether the gamble secured ground or left the vehicle exposed. Overwatch footage captures 2 Russian Lancet loitering munitions intercepted mid-flight. Ukrainian kamikaze drones ram into them before they can strike, explosions caught clearly by a 3rd drone circling above. Normally, FPV feeds cut out on impact, but this angle shows the full detonation. Wreckage tumbles to the ground as the camera hovers overhead. The interception demonstrates how drones are now tasked with protecting units as much as striking. The cut leaves the question of how many more such duels unfold unseen. Ukrainian drone footage shows a shotgun-armed rig targeting Russian quadcopters. Twin barrels fire at close range, knocking one drone out of the sky before turning on infantry below. The operator drops a grenade on a soldier after circling overhead. The sequence blends air-to-air combat with traditional FPV strikes, underscoring how flexible these platforms have become. The clip ends before revealing how many targets were hit in total, leaving the audience anticipating more of this hybrid tactic. On the approaches to Bakhmut, Russian armoured columns push forward into anti-tank fire. Ukrainian defenders of the 93rd Mechanized Brigade target vehicles with missiles and FPV drones, scoring multiple hits. Disabled armour clogs the roadway as infantry scatter into nearby fields. Follow-up grenades from drones pursue those who flee, tightening the noose. The ambush demonstrates how layered defenses can halt even determined assaults. The cut ends as smoke rises, hinting at further strikes still to come. Drone footage shows Russian motorcycle troops planting mines along a rural road. Ukrainian soldiers observe from a nearby building, then open fire. One rider is hit before an FPV drone closes in on the other. The machine is destroyed in a blast, leaving fragments scattered across the road. The short sequence underscores that even in a war dominated by drones and artillery, rifles still dictate life or death when enemies are exposed. The clip cuts before showing the aftermath in full. Helmet camera footage from Donetsk shows a Ukrainian rocketeer aiming an RPG-16 at 2 Russian soldiers retreating across a tree line. He steadies the launcher for only seconds before firing. The round arcs and lands close, though not directly on target, scattering the men. The attempt highlights both the power and imprecision of shoulder-launched rockets under pressure. The near miss leaves viewers watching to see whether follow-up fire will finish the job. Overhead surveillance shows FPV drones hunting Russian infantry scattered through tree lines. Some targets make no attempt to move, while others try to use branches and foliage for cover. The drones dive in regardless, striking men one by one. The footage underscores how concealment from above differs from protection on the ground. By the end, several strikes land in quick succession, leaving the scene quiet. The cut hints that more segments will follow. Russian drones swarm a Ukrainian settlement, captured on overhead video. Civilians run for cover as explosions strike fences and yards. One woman falls to the ground after a blast lands close. The sequence highlights the ongoing risk to non-combatants even far from frontline trenches. It ends abruptly, a stark reminder of how civilians remain caught in the firestorm of modern warfare. Interior footage from a Canadian-made Rochelle Senator shows the moment a Russian FPV with a shaped charge impacts. Armor designed to resist small arms cannot stop the jet of molten metal. Shrapnel sprays through the cabin, wounding those inside. A Ukrainian officer applies a tourniquet to his own leg, an injury that later cost him the limb despite quick response. The video was shared to emphasize both vulnerability and resilience. The scene ends on the damaged vehicle, silent testimony to the strike. A lone Russian soldier stands motionless as an FPV drone approaches. The operator hovers closer, the man refusing to run or hide. The tactic recalls myths about evading predators, but drones track regardless of movement. In seconds, the feed cuts to impact. The sequence is short, but underscores how desperation or false logic offers no protection on this battlefield. Russian motorcycle troops ride into a zone covered by Ukrainian artillery. Shells land to their left and right before DPICM. Cluster munitions saturate the roadway. Survivors attempt to flee but are hunted by FPV drones. One rider remounts and speeds off, only to be pursued down like prey. The footage frames their advance as reckless in the face of layered defenses. The cut leaves no doubt about the odds of survival. Russian reconnaissance shows a Ukrainian Tu-S1 Gvozdika tracked, howitzer targeted in Kharkiv region. Artillery strikes land around the site before FPV drones close in, detonating directly on the position. The footage emphasizes counter-battery tactics, denying fire support before barrages can continue. The sequence ends as smoke billows from the impact zone, cutting away before full damage is assessed. A Russian armored personnel carrier rolls over a hidden mine and loses its tracks. Surviving infantry dismount into chaos as Ukrainian drones dive in. Each strike picks off scattered men while the immobilized vehicle burns in the background. The footage blends the violence of old minefields with the precision of modern drones. It closes before the last figures are accounted for, leaving an air of unfinished devastation. Ukraine's 60th Brigade pounds a Russian mechanized push with artillery and FPVs. One armored vehicle takes 2 direct drone-dropped hits. Another succumbs to sustained shelling. Infantry scatter into tree lines, only to be hunted by thermal-guided drones. Each attempt at shelter proves temporary as more FPVs chase them down. The segment captures how attrition grinds down whole companies under layered strikes. It ends on flames licking through the wreckage, hinting at losses still mounting beyond view. That's today's raw footage. No filters, no fluff. This is M6 Archive. Always first on the front lines. Subscribe and share if you want more.